Hi, welcome to NicheCraft. My name is Cassie and I'm your host, and you are looking at the yarn that I'm going to dye today. Like always, I have it on these zip ties here, and I use that to make sure that it does not get tangled. Pick that up from Kim Knits. This is a DK weight. Each one of these is a 100 gram hank. So I'm using Knit Picks Merino style DK weight. And it is 246 yards per 100 grams, and it is 100% merino wool, and all of that good stuff right there. So like I said, I got it from Knit Picks, so I wanted to let you know. So before we move on to actually dyeing the yarn, I wanted to show you a couple of my new gear that I got for my birthday. So I got a couple of tongs that have these silicone ends on them. This way I won't snag the yarn if I take them to try to wring out the water with them or pick them up with them. I also have a new dye pot. Look at that, stainless steel. It's beautiful. And inside of there I already have some water. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But I just wanted to say that this is something that I got. I'm so happy about. It has a steamer and a spaghetti insert. And while this would be wonderful to have as cookware, it's also really great and ideal for different kinds of yarn dyeing. So I am really excited about that too. But let's go ahead and talk about today's dyeing video. So today's dyeing video is going to come a little bit out of order, but hey, it's the best thing I can do. I've already recorded the Valentine's Day yarn video that I'm going to make. And this... what is this? Kind of looks, it probably looks a little bit weird to you guys too, huh? So it's a spray bottle, and it's got some dye in it. And the dye it has in it is Jacquard's Crimson and Jacquard's Violet, and it's mixed together. So I had a previous video where I used both Jacquard's Crimson and Jacquard's Violet, and I had some left over and I don't want to waste any dye, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to just put this together and I'm going to use this as basically a dye bath. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to attempt to do two things. One is make an ombre yarn, okay, so that's going to be something that is darker on one side and it gets gradually lighter and lighter. And then the second thing is I want to see if this acid dye, because it's got both crimson particles and violet particles in it, right? I want to know if it breaks. And when I say that, I mean, will some parts of the yarn, for example, absorb the red first, and then the last part have the blues and the violets on there? Or is it going to be something that distributes a little bit more evenly? So that's going to be the other thing. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and use the rest of this for all 4 hanks. And yeah, I'm only dyeing 4 hanks, but I figured 4 hanks times about 250 yards per hank is enough to make a sweater. Or, you know, just 1 hank could make a nice... a hat and maybe a scarf, maybe enough over there for a scarf. So I thought, hey, why not? So here is my experiment. Alright guys, so to begin with, I had this yarn and I soaked it in about 16 cups of water with a few tablespoons of vinegar. And then I kind of wrung it as dry as possible so it wouldn't be waterlogged. Because if it's waterlogged, then it wouldn't be able to absorb the dye, right? Then, I like to reuse my water, so after I wrung these out, I put the water into this dye pot, and I'm about to add a few more tablespoons of water here. How about 3? Remember I told you about this. I'm going to go ahead and pour this out in the water here. So this to me looks more red than violet, but we'll see how it turns out. Just wanted to rinse out this and pour that out there. The spray bottle will be featured in another video. So anyway, the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to take all 4 hanks of yarn here. Let me get them all. Okay, and I'm going to be dip dyeing them into the pot with the idea that as I dip them in the pot, it's going to be darker on this bottom side, and then as I continue to put it into the pot, it will get lighter and lighter. Alright, so I just started doing this, but the amount of dye was so small that I'm going to add, how about an extra, this is very dark, it's going to look kind of gross to some of you, an extra tablespoon, a whole tablespoon of crimson, sorry, and a whole extra tablespoon of violet as well. So, you can just stir that around so that all of those particles will, and this is the color that we end up with, this really pretty, like, almost, it's like a champagne pink, almost. I think it's really pretty. Okay, so now we're going to take this, and hopefully we didn't mess up the experiment. We're going to take this, and this is what I dyed at first, okay? And we are going to put this back in there until about the point where I did that. So here we are at the very beginning. I'm going to let that kind of sit there. I guess I'm going to count to 10 and then I'm going to lower it a little bit more. Don't mind my dog in the background there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, lower it a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This must be thrilling for you guys. We'll do it, how about 2 more times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the last time here. Okay. Alright, so I don't know if this is going to end up coming out as ombre or not, but we gave each section of this a little bit longer to saturate than the next one. So now that all of that yarn is in there, just making sure it's all good. I still have it on medium, and I'm going to go ahead and take, of course it came with a beautiful lid, and I can even see inside of the pot, although it's probably going to steam up. So I'm going to give this 15 minutes to set, then I'm going to take it out and see what the colors look like and how clear the water is, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, see you in about 15 minutes. Alright guys, welcome back. It has not been even close to 15 minutes, but while this is heating up more and more, I wanted to talk to you guys about how you guys can do this at home safely. Now I have some videos out there that go over all of the things you need to dye yarn with acid dyes and the safety precautions you need to take when you're dyeing yarn with acid dyes. And the acid dyes bind very, very well. It's like a commercial grade dye. However, there's a lot of safety precautions you have to take. So if you want to get started dyeing yarn, but you don't want to make the commitment of having like a dedicated dye pot and some, and all of this kind of stuff, you can very easily do the exact same thing I'm doing, only use food coloring. So I want to show you a couple of the food coloring that you can get. So of course you guys have probably heard of just the regular food coloring that's liquid. You can use that. You can also get this icing food coloring. Now this is from Wilton's, and I got this off of Amazon, and it has really nice depth of shade. Now these are more like a gel, okay? And in fact, let me go ahead and show you. So this is pink, but then if you look at it, let me make sure you can see it. You see how dark that looks? Because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take think just a eighth or a fourth of a teaspoon, and mix it with about a cup of water, and you will get a very bright color. If you want it to be more pastel, then you're going to have to play around with how much creates a pastel and how much creates a darker color. I just wanted to show you, here's another kind of dye that you can get. This is also a like kind of a gel-like dye. It's the same kind of thing. You just dissolve it in your dye pot or in some water and then pour it over the yarn. The thing that you're going to need, though, to make it bind to a protein fiber is the vinegar, and I'm just using regular Great Value cleaning vinegar, nothing fancy. It's just an acid that allows for the protein fibers to absorb the dye. So when I mean protein fibers, I'm talking about wool, I'm talking about Angora, I'm talking about alpaca, I'm talking about anything that's come from an animal, right? Now, if you're like, ooh, but Cassie, I don't really want to learn I don't really want to work with that kind of fiber, that's fine. If you want to work with cotton, then I would go a completely different route. I would say, get a t-shirt dyeing kit, or get some, you could even use a tie-dye kit to dye cotton with. Now acrylic is going to be a little bit tricky. You're going to have to play around with it. The biggest issue with acrylic yarn is that heat usually sets the yarn. Now, not always, but it usually sets the dye. And if you apply heat to acrylic, it can melt because acrylic's made out of plastic. So you just have to be aware that you'll need to use more cool dyeing techniques, and I'm not as familiar with those, so I can't help you there, but I can at least point you in the right direction of not heating it up very much, at least when you are using those to dye. Alright, so it has been about 7 minutes or so. I'm going to go ahead and leave you. Obviously it's getting warm, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this looks like in about 7 more minutes. I will see you then. Alright guys, welcome back. It has been almost 15 minutes and I'm ready to take the lid off. Now there should be some steam, but it never came to a boil, and actually there isn't any steam, so that's interesting. Let's go ahead and gently lift out one of these and see if there is a gradient. And let's see here. I am not seeing much of a gradient, actually. I mean, I see a bit of one. Okay, if you look. But I'm also seeing some white spots too. We're going to do the exact same thing we did at first, only this time there's more acid, the water's warm, and there's more dye. So let's go ahead and see how this goes. So I'm just going to be counting in my head this time. Alright, next level. Go ahead and poke this underneath here. So make sure that that's really getting in there. Next level. Okay. Make sure it's really getting stirred up there. I want to make sure all of the fiber has a chance to absorb that. Okay, next one in. Okay. I think this is going to be working a lot better for us. And then the last little bit, and that is totally covered. This is going to definitely saturate the yarn. Whether or not we get a gradient, we will see, but at least we know that there will be enough dye this time to be able to dye these two hanks. And like I said, then I'm going to do it again with the other two. Same thing, putting the lid on, but since this has already gone through one cycle, I'm going to go ahead and just put the timer for 10 minutes instead of 15 and see where we are at that point. Alright guys, see you then. Alright guys, hopefully second time's the charm. Let's see what this looks like now. Now I realize I still left it on medium. So this actually, yeah. I never turned it up high enough. So I don't know if you guys can see. Let me look. Yeah, you can see. There's still a little bit of dye left. Not a whole lot, but let's see what our gradient looks like. Oh, nice. I can actually see a difference. It might be subtle right now while it's still wet, but I can definitely see a bit of a gradient here. At least more so than I could see before. Going to let this sit here in the water for a little while, turn it up to high. Once it starts simmering, I will turn it off and then let it cool down completely. Then I'll do the second one. And I will meet you when I am ready to wash the yarn out to see if any of the dye is bleeding. Alright guys, see you then. Alright, so now is a moment of truth. You can see a little bit of a difference between the very top, which is paler, and the very bottom. Especially with it wet. I don't know how much that's going to actually show up though once it has dried. But anyway, I say moment of truth because we are going to find out now if this yarn is going to bleed at all. So I'm going to add just a little bit of clear dish soap. Now you can do this if you're using food dye as well. Just remember, don't agitate the yarn too much because it can cause felting, okay? So, wow, that is clear. Look at that, guys. It looks like, actually, it looks a little almost muddy in there, a little bit, a little cloudy, but it does not look pink, that's for sure. And it could just be, that's just my eyes, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to continue. I should probably turn that off. I'm going to continue to wash this, again being very gentle with this because I do not want it to felt. I'm washing it in cool water here. Oh yeah, see there's a little bit of pink, but as long as you keep washing it until it completely runs clear, then that will take care of any bleeding that you might have in the wash. So just wanted to make sure you knew that. Yeah, just a little bit. That's not unusual with reds, as I'm sure a lot of people know if you've ever accidentally dyed your whites pink before, but it is pretty close to being clear. I mean, it is pretty close. So I'm going to continue to wash it until it runs completely clear, and then I'm going to hang it up to dry, and I will meet you at the table with all 4 of them. Alright, see you then. Alright, hi! Look at how this yarn turned out. Now I'm going to be zooming in so you can see the different tonal variations because there are some variations. It is very subtle, but there definitely is just a little bit of ombre. There's not enough that I think it's not enough that I would label it an ombre yarn, but it's enough that I see it, okay? And that's all that really matters to me. I have a whole bunch of things that I've learned that I can use in the future, which is great. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. And the first thing is that I thought it was really interesting. Let me, instead of holding it up, let me just zoom in here. The first thing that I wanted to point out is, so this color pink right here is a little bit lighter than this tie. So what happened there? How did this tie get so much darker? And over on this one, we can see how the tie is a lot darker as well there. So I wanted to explain that. Some of you guys who might order from small businesses where they hand dye their yarn, the reason why the tie can be a different color is that sometimes they don't use the same yarn as what the hank is made out of to tie the hank together. So that's why these can sometimes end up looking like almost different colors because it takes the dye in a different way. So that's something that I wanted to point out. You can even see it here, maybe, with this right here. So it's all like, this is all the same, but these little ties it must be something else, something that absorbs dye better. Zooming out, I picked what I felt like was the best one to show at least some ombre. So we're going to start over here at the top part, which I think is the light. I mean, well, it's the lightest part. And you can even see right here, let me zoom in here. You can even see right here how it's really light pink, especially right here. Very, very light. Zoom in some more so you can see that. Very, very light pink. Okay, zooming out, this part of the hank is a lot lighter. And then if you go down, you can see that it's starting to get darker, especially right here with these strands. And then when you get to the very bottom, you see this is much darker. And to kind of demonstrate that, I'm gonna fold this one up and we can compare these two pinks here. So hopefully you can see that the top part is lighter than the bottom part. Again, it is very subtle. It's not probably going to make that much of a difference. I'm sure knitted or crocheted up, it's going to look gorgeous, but I don't think it's going to make enough of a difference that this yarn is going to really look as ombre as I would like it to personally. I definitely know other ways that I can make this much more dramatic, and I'll consider doing that on the channel in the future. So to conclude the video, I think that I've done a really good job creating a subtle ombre with this rose pink, and I think that it looks really pretty. Some of you guys might even say, oh no, it's more like peonies, and I mean, that would be totally that would be a good one too. But I just absolutely love this. And I also have an announcement to make. So I'm really excited to inform you guys that I have started to dye yarn on a much bigger scale. I have taken videos of every single colorway that I've made, and I am going to be releasing those videos over the next few weeks to prepare you for when my yarn hits my Etsy shop. And for example, this will be an exclusive. There's only 4 hanks. But I have some where I've dyed a whole lot of hanks of different colors. I have a theme that I'm going to be doing first. It's going to include 14 different colorways, but it's all under a specific theme. I'd like to tell you about that now, but it would kind of ruin the fun for my next video. And I have some Valentine's Day yarns that I made in certain ways. And of course we've got this, which is kind of like my leftover Valentine's Day colors. Just wanted to say all of this is going to be hitting my shop on January 6th. Okay, so that'll be the time where everything hits my shop. So maybe you might want to mark that date if you're interested in owning any of my dyed yarn. I think the colorways that I'm making that go into that theme are going to be a lot more exciting than something like this, but something like this is going to be offered on my Etsy store. So now I have a question. Should I offer this as a bundle? So that would be like $20, $40, $60, $80 for all 4. Should I sell them individually? But in that case, I would price them more at $22 for each one, and you can purchase more than just one, assuming that you get there fast enough. Let me know below, because I'm really interested in finding out your input, because you guys can completely control the kinds of things that I'm going to be dyeing and putting out there. So some other things that I wanted to announce too is that I do have some stitch markers that I have created for Valentine's Day. There's more than just these 2. I have 2 other Valentine's Day themed stitch markers, and I'm even going to be including some St. Patrick's Day stitch markers if you want to jump ahead and get those before the season. Also wanted to mention that I got these beautiful owl stitch markers, and they come in all sorts of different colors, and I'm about to list those as well. So for those of you who enjoy my Etsy shop, know that I am going to be putting a whole bunch of new stuff in there over the next couple of weeks, and then on this January 6th, all of my custom dyed yarn is going to hit there, and there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff on there. So I'm really, really excited. And I also wanted to let you guys know that I'm kind of right here, just doing a whole bunch of dye videos, and then I'm going to get back to my normal schedule of doing tutorials. I know I have a couple of tutorials that I need to get back to and finish up, and going back to my regular content. It's just right now, since it's the holidays and everything, I've just got all of this yarn that I have hand dyed, and it's just been kind of like something fun that I've been doing with my family. I've gotten my kids involved and all of that, so that is where I am right now. Again, thank you so much for watching this to the end. I will see you soon in another video. Bye for now.